So before I introduce myself, I actually want to just do a mindful exercise. So everyone can just kind of get comfortable in their seat. Sort of a deep private posture that's on the floor or on the chair next to you. This will be very brief, and I'll call this a grounding exercise. You can kiss this better. Can you hear me now? Better, okay. So go ahead and close your eyes. This will be very, very brief. So just try to do this without any judgment of the experience. Take a deep breath and kind of let it out. Let your mind clear a little bit. You've got some great information. Let's reset, reground. Take another deep breath and just sort of be aware of where you are right now in this room. Allow your attention to rest on your experience of your body in the chair that you're sitting in. Notice the areas of contact between your body and the chair. Notice the support that the chair is offering you right now. Become aware that the chair is supporting your body, carrying most of your physical weight. Allow this to happen. Allow a comfortable sense of heaviness to spread throughout your body, supported and carried by the chair. Notice the rise and fall of your breath. Notice any tension around your eyes, around your jaw. Try to release that tension if it's there. Notice if you have any tension in your body, in your neck, your shoulders, down your arms. Notice the weight of your head. Is there any tension down the back of your spine, in your legs, your feet? Notice your breath. Just be absorbed by your chair. Take another breath and rest in this experience of being supported by your chair. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. So that was a very simple and quick grounding exercise, right? Sort of feeling grounded where you are right now, in this room, in your chair, kind of checking in with yourself. So I'm going to be talking about mindfulness. I'll introduce myself very quickly. I'm Jennifer Medina. I am a clinical psychologist by training. I have a specialty in neuropsychology, which means I did extra stuff in school for that. And I am a clinician, so I work with people who are experiencing cognitive impairment, neurological problems. I do assessment. I also do treatment and intervention. So I help people understand how their brain is working. That's the neuro part of being a psychologist. I do therapy with people, and primarily I use a lot of mindfulness to help people understand and cope with what they're experiencing from a neurological standpoint. But I also really love just talking about the brain and helping everybody sort of understand how we can use our brains to our advantage. There's a lot of information now getting out into different industries about neuroscience and the brain and how it affects us in all areas, education, leadership, I mean, it's everywhere, right? So I'm going to do a little bit of the education about the brain. I have a lot to cover because I just like to talk about the brain and mindfulness and how we can understand it and use it in our everyday lives. So let's get started. All right, our standard American lifestyle. Does any of this sort of feel familiar? Sometimes we operate on autopilot, right? We have a mindless approach to what we do in our everyday tasks. We rush to finish, we gotta get things done, we're go, go, go. We always have a to-do list with things to check off. And instead of being mindful, we are mindless sometimes. We all have things to worry about: money, health, getting things done, taking care of the people that we love. And I recently saw an article titled, Our Digital Device Addiction is Causing a National Attention Deficit. Michael just talked about this epidemic of attention deficit. We all have a little bit of attention deficit, but technology really is pulling us away from all these things that we have to do in our daily life. And it creates this sense of feeling stressed out, right? Does anyone ever feel stressed out? So what is stress really? A big part of stress is how we perceive what's happening in our lives. So we appraise and we cope and we go out and we experience things in our everyday lives. And if we feel that those things that happen to us are threatening, then we start to feel stressed by them. So we can have positive stress. Sometimes there's good stress that gets us through a day that creates a sense of accomplishment or a sense of efficiency or productivity. But we can also have negative stress. And this is when we, again, perceive those things that happen in our everyday lives to be threatening or create a sense of fear. When that happens, we often become unable to effectively cope with those situations. So just a really quick evolutionary lecture. Stress is really adaptive. Our ancestors, our cavemen and women ancestors, had this stress response. Everybody heard of the fight or flight response, right, from 10th grade biology at least, where we had to fight for our own safety, we had to find our own food, protect ourselves from predators, and we have this natural biological response that has helped us to survive. So the ancestors who didn't have this didn't survive. They got eaten by the woolly mammoth and attached by the saber-toothed tiger, and they did not evolve to be what we are today. So we have this really adaptive mechanism in our bodies, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it so you have a good understanding of how it affects you in your daily life. It can be really purposeful. You know, we hear these stories about how people get really activated and they save other humans, and you know, my stress response is probably activated right now. It's helping me think clearly and develop what I want to say to effectively communicate to you. So it can be a really good thing to have this good level of stress. But it can also be really maladaptive, right? So we can experience things again in our everyday lives that we perceive as threatening. But here's the thing. When we're sitting in traffic, when we have a pile of stuff to do on our desk, it's not the same as being attacked by a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger, right? But the stress response gets activated. So what happens is we're sitting there with this stress response, like our body wants to go, 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 but it's not effective, it's not adaptive. There's nowhere to go when you're sitting there needing to reply to emails or deal with your staff or get your assignments done. So unpack the stress response a little bit more. And there's a lot of information. Some people love the details and some people don't, so I put some pictures and some words. So basically, what happens when we get stressed out? Our pupils dilate so we can take in more information. Our breathing starts to become more shallow because oxygen needs to get to the big muscles so we can fight, so we can run. Our digestion slows down because it's not important to process food right at that moment. We start to perspire to keep the body cool. Lots of neurochemicals get released into the bloodstream. Fats and sugars so that we can metabolize and have energy. These chemicals, on top of our kidneys, we have adrenal glands and cortisol. You've probably heard of. It's the stress hormone. It gets secreted into the blood. We have neurochemicals like epinephrine and norepinephrine. These are what, when you get that stress response and you feel kind of like amped up or your stomach feels kind of weird. That's epinephrine and norepinephrine getting infused into your bloodstream so that all of these things can happen for the body to protect itself. From a neural level, this is a picture of a neuron here. We have all of these little cascade of chemicals that happen. Again, I'm not going to test you on the details here, but we have neurochemicals that get secreted into the brain that, in a stable environment, help us remember, help our mood stay regular and stable. But in a stress response, there's an excess of all of these things get released into the brain. And when that happens over and over and over again, the brain starts to kind of take a hit. So do all the other organs. So we have this extra cortisol, this extra glucocorticoids that get released into the system. And the fine structures of the brain eventually start to take a hit because these chemicals are not at the levels that they're supposed to be. So I'm just going to walk you through the brain again. I'm not going to ask you to remember any of these structures, but there's a whole cascade of things that happen. When we perceive a threatening environment, the amygdala perceives it and starts the stress cascade. And we're going to go around like this. So the hippocampus is responsible for memory, but with all these extra chemicals secreted into the blood, into the brain, memory starts to fail a little bit. This is like an area of the emotion center. So what happens, our emotions take over, we become more reactive to this threat, which makes us feel more fearful, which makes us feel anxious or angry and more reactive, so this cascade starts to happen. When we get to the frontal lobe, where a lot of our complex thinking happens, all of these areas get activated, and we don't problem solve or plan as well, we can't meet our deadlines or goals, we're not as attentive, we can't concentrate, we act more impulsively. And these are connected to the fear state. So what happens is we get into the stress response and it just starts happening over and over. And then we realize I'm not getting anything done, I'm more irritable, I'm more reactive, and none of this is a good thing. So just to recap, I went through a lot right there. So we have this perceived threat from things that happen in our environment, and it activates the stress response. We probably start eating more fast food, we don't sleep very well, we don't exercise. We get all of these negative events happening in our body and in our brain. And what happens? We get headaches, we get stomach aches, we can't concentrate, we're not being efficient at work. Now, sometimes this happens to people all the time. There are those of us out there who are kind of chronically activated in the stress response system, and it's not a healthy lifestyle, and we need some help dealing with that. For some of us, this happens every once in a while, and hey, we're all human. So we experience a stress response, but then we deal with it and we go on with our day, and it happens again. So this varies from person to person. Not everybody has this terrible, awful thing happening to them all the time. But I venture to say that everyone in this room has experienced a stress response where it's affected them in some way or another. Stress headache, indigestion, acid reflux, back pain, neck pain, inefficiency at work. There's just a lot of trickle down into our everyday lives. So what do we do about it? Whether you're chronically stressed out or just stressed out every once in a while, how do we maintain our health? We have a very reactive healthcare system, mindset for dealing with things that happen in our health. So we tend to treat symptoms, we tend to go to the doctor when we're sick, we kind of put band-aids on things a lot of times. This concept of wellness is becoming bigger and bigger, which is a wonderful thing. Insurance companies are developing wellness plans, so this is really great. And wellness is basically kind of getting behind the problem before it happens. So how do we maintain our wellness so that we don't have symptoms to treat? I'm not going to tell you anything new. You exercise, you eat well, you sleep well, you don't drink, drink in moderation, get a good night of sleep, relaxation strategies. And really what we want to do is avoid when that stress response happens and it's not adaptive. So not having that cascade happen when you're sitting at your desk or when you're driving in your car because it's not purposeful. So how do we stay ahead of that stress response? I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the parasympathetic nervous system. So that fight or flight response activates the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic is that rest and digest. Maybe you haven't heard that one. They don't talk about that one as much in 10th grade biology. The parasympathetic system is our normal resting state. It's when everything is kind of zen, right? Our breathing is normal, our heart rate is at our target rate, we're not sweating, our digestion is happy, it's a state of which we're feeling pretty good. most of the time. So how do we maintain it? Breathing is a great way. We all know how to breathe. So breathing is a great way to kind of initiate or get that parasympathetic response started. I had you take a deep breath when we did that little rock grounding exercise. We forget the power of just taking a deep breath sometimes. Relaxation, guided imagery, meditation. There's a lot of research studies showing the value of social support in maintaining this level of homeostasis or sort of normal, comfortable functioning in our bodies. When we find refuge, whether we're feeling safe or protected. So these are all things that give us a sense of feeling well. I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about mindfulness because this is one of the strategies that you can use to promote wellness. Does anyone practice mindfulness? Has anyone ever heard of mindfulness? It's getting to be pretty popularized. John Kabat-Zinn is sort of the father of mindfulness. He's brought these Eastern traditions into Western medicine. He developed the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. He's out of Massachusetts. You can take an 8-week course by many people who have been trained by him. Mindfulness it's infiltrating a lot of different areas. I'm going to talk to you about mindfulness in leadership, in the workplace, and really just mindfulness in your everyday life. So let's just kind of go through what is it. It's a lot of things, but I'm going to focus on the present moment awareness component of it. So again, that grounding exercise I did with you is to get you in the room right here and right now. Yield the chair, check in with your body, be present in this moment. Because let's be honest, we all have things to do later. We all have bills to pay. We all have places to go. We all have stuff, deadlines and things going on. And those things detract us from being in the moment right now. And if you're not in this moment right now, then why did you even show up, right? You want to be present in every moment that you're a part of so that you can have a quality experience of all of those moments. We mostly get pulled away with our thoughts. Michael's talked about how we have this ADD epidemic and we're always going. We have technology and all kinds of stimulation in our environment that's pulling us away from the present moment. So, present moment awareness, if you take one thing away, if you've never heard of mindfulness and you take one thing away, present moment awareness is sort of one of the foundations. And it's a very non-judgmental moment of awareness. Mindfulness is an opportunity to work towards greater self-understanding and peacefulness. Being awake and fully aware. I like that one. Paying attention on purpose. So as a neuropsychologist, I talk to people a lot about paying attention. Because people come into my office and they say, my memory, and I'll test their memory and their memory's fine. What it is their attention. So the attention is this big golden gate, and if we don't pay attention, we're not going to remember. So go out into your day, and the next time you say, I can't remember, or what is it that happened? And think about what you were doing when that activity happened or that conversation happened, and chances are you probably weren't paying attention. So the hippocampus, which controls our memory, can't do its job if we don't pay attention to what's happening. Mindfulness brings us back into the moment so we can pay attention, which helps us to be more efficient in everything that we're doing because we can remember it better. This mindful mindset can create the sense of openness and acceptance, awareness of what's happening. It's really this process of being instead of doing. And again, we're almost trained to be doers. Do, go, accomplish, be productive, get it done. And that's okay. We live in a society where this is our reality. But I think if we can be more present in every moment, we can be in the moment. It doesn't mean that we don't get things done, but it creates an opportunity to just enjoy it more. So I mentioned that a lot of what drags us away from our present moment is our thoughts. And has anyone ever worried about anything? So So we tend to worry about things that happened in the past. We tend to worry about things that are going to happen in the future. And what happens is we're like having an emotional experience of the past or the future in this moment right now. So if I'm worrying about what I have to do next week, or this deadline I need to make, or this thing I need to get done, I'm getting all stressed out about something that's not even happening right now. It hasn't happened yet. I can't control it. So why am I doing that, right? It's not being very present in the moment. We worry about things in the past. I should have done it this way. Why did it go that way? And you're recreating a stress from an old moment and living it in your present moment again. And then all bets are off for what you're doing now. And you can't be efficient in what you're doing now. You start to forget about what you're doing now because we're in another place. So I think this is an important thought. The past and the future we cannot control. We can really only control the moment that we're in right now. Okay. I'm going to talk about these things here: thinking clearly, being a better leader, and accessing our creativity as it pertains to this mindful perspective. So, cognition, thinking abilities, this is kind of my thing. So I like to talk about how mindfulness can help people in these different ways. I mentioned attention, it's the golden gate of our brain. It's like the front door. So if you have a faulty front door, then the rest is kind of off. So if we pay attention on purpose and we strengthen that muscle, the brain's not a muscle, but it's kind of like a muscle. If we practice paying attention, then our attention gets stronger. And how do we practice paying attention? We become present in the moment that we're in. We literally practice being in the moment, and that's attending to where you are right now. This is a lifestyle practice. So if we do this over and over, we start to get good at paying attention. This concept of neurons that wire together, fire together, it's kind of like muscles. When you first go to the gym, you start with 5 pounds, and then you go to 10 pounds, and then you go to 20 pounds. Or when you're running, you go 5 miles, and I don't know 5 miles, but you increase your stamina, right? So start by paying attention right now, and then you get stronger at paying attention for longer periods of time. And then you start to live a more fulfilling life because you're always in the moment paying attention. This is a bigger thing that we could spend lots of time talking about, but what we pay attention to becomes our reality. So if we're paying attention to the worry and the stress and the negativity and all the things that are bothering us, all we see are all these things that are bothering us. So if we start to pay attention to where we are in that moment in a very present way, then you can, again, increase the quality of your experiences and focus less on what's going wrong and more on what's present and in front of you. Let's see. I've talked about memory. We all have a capacity to be our best selves from a cognitive standpoint, but when our attention is not in place, then we can't really access that capacity. I tend to work a lot with an aging population. Many of my patients are people diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or other kind of dementias. And we, in that field, want to know how to prevent that so that that doesn't happen as we get older. And more research is coming out about how these wellness strategies can promote healthy aging. So again, I believe if you are at any age exercising your attention capacity or your attention muscles in the brain, the older you get, the stronger they stay. It's the same thing with your biceps, right? If you exercise when you're young or you're middle-aged or in your senior years, the stronger you stay throughout your life. The same concept works for the brain. All right, so let's get into a little bit of where mindfulness can apply in everyday life. It's getting super popular, which is great. And mindfulness isn't for everybody, but just knowing what it is gives you the option of knowing whether it's for you. A lot of organizations are starting to implement mindfulness for their employees, for their clients. So some pretty big, well-known organizations, Aetna and Kaiser, they have You can do an 8-week online mindfulness training program. And if you're a patient or a client of Aetna, you can check in with your wellness. You get wellness points and wellness credits, and it contributes to your insurance plan. Google is really big in mindfulness. There's some big people on Google who are implementing this. Google has this amazing wellness program for all their employees. So some of these big organizations are really setting the bar for implementing mindfulness in their everyday life. So why? Because it can help people be more attentive in their daily work. And the research is coming out now as sort of like in vivo, but it's starting to show that people are feeling more productive, they're enjoying their jobs better, they're just being more efficient in their everyday life, they're happier employees. A lot of other industries are using mindfulness. In hospitals, in schools, teachers using mindfulness to help the students pay attention. Sports, the military, the government. I was reading about a congressman who is a mindfulness practitioner. He does a lot of yoga, and he's trying to get Congress to meditate before they have their sessions. And it sounds like they're not buying it, but he's not going to give up, and I think that's great for him. He's starting to get a lot more support. I just recently read this World Economic Forum in Switzerland. I believe John Kabat-Zinn, the father of mindfulness, he was there, and he was leading them through mindful exercises, kind of similar to the grounding exercise, and another one I'm going to do with you in a little bit. And these are some sort of blurbs that the people attending the conference, the world economics experts, are saying. If you're more focused on the job, you'll become a better leader. They feel they behave more aggressively in their interactions with others. Improved relations in the C-suite. I think people are just kind of talking more effectively and maybe in a calmer way. And for world leaders, the more at peace we are, the more we can spread that. So these are just kind of some anecdotal statements that people at this conference made. All right. So I use this term leadership kind of loosely because I think we can all be leaders in our everyday life. You can be a leader of your family, a leader of your classroom, a leader of yourself in your studies, a leader of an organization. You don't have to have a staff to be a leader. So with that in mind, these are some questions about whether you feel mindfulness can help you as a leader. Can you imagine being present for each thing that you're juggling in the chaos? Regardless of what kind of leader you're on, we all have things we're juggling, right? So can you be present in each one of them, give them each your full self with all these other things going on around you? Can you effectively deal with challenges in a clear and calm way? Sounds kind of nice. Can you be appreciated by your staff and employees as being compassionate and understanding? So you can both be effective and a nice guy or a girl if you have a mindful attitude. Can you demand excellence without being demanding? Can you use all of your values and capabilities to the fullest? Can you increase the focus and productivity of your workplace? So I believe, based on what I know about the brain and mindfulness and what's coming out in the literature and the studies and the people practicing this in these organizations, is that these are all opportunities to use mindfulness in a way to help us, at least in leadership roles. More and more, again, coming out of in mindfulness in the workplace. So study looking at giving their employees a legitimate lunch break. Does anybody actually take a lunch break? So you don't have to admit to it, but let's be honest, we all kind of eat at our computers or eat in the car or eat on the run. There's a lot of opportunities to benefit from actually stopping, even like 15 or 20 minutes to take a lunch break. You can pay attention to what you're eating, which is a good thing. You don't have to scarf down your food if you actually stop and appreciate what you're chewing, what you're swallowing, and how it tastes. So mindful eating is a whole we trick ourselves into thinking, well, if I just work through lunch, I'll get more done. And we have to really kind of rethink that and train our minds. If we stop and take a break, we create an opportunity to actually be more effective and more productive having taken that break. Yeah? Do you guys agree? That kind of makes sense, right? We are programmed to just push through, I think. But I think if we slow down, we create an opportunity to actually get more done. People feel more creative in the afternoon after they've taken a break. And like I said, it's better for your health if you're paying attention to what you're eating. The study looked at giving call center workers a 20-minute progressive relaxation break. And they measured their cortisol, which you can do by swabbing your cheek. And they had reduced cortisol. Now remember, cortisol, on top of our kidneys, we have adrenal glands. And in that fight or flight stress response, it gets secreted into the bloodstream to help us do what we gotta do to flee or fight or flee. So it reduced cortisol levels, which we think is a good thing. So in the workplace, how do we do this? By taking a lunch break, 15 minutes. Paying attention, I've already kind of talked about, but asking yourself some questions throughout the day. What am I doing right now? Like this autopilot thing that we do can get out of control, right? So if you stop and pay attention to what you're doing. I did it with you, and I did that so that you got the feeling of what that was like. That took like 2 minutes when I had you close your eyes and feel the chair and loosen your jaw and take a deep breath. 2 minutes. If you stop and pay attention and check in with yourself, what am I doing right now and why? Is what I'm doing helping me achieve some purposeful goal, or am I just splitting from screen to screen and not really getting anything done? Am I feeling energized by this or depleted by it? And when you answer that question, you can make a choice about what you do next. Am I being distracted? Oftentimes the answer to that's going to be yes, I think, because we have lots of reasons to be distracted. Am I respecting my time and that of others? So I think a big part of this is just the awareness. What's happening right now in this moment that I'm in? So this is a Huffington Post article, and as Michael mentioned, it's an aggregator, and I don't really endorse this, but I just thought it was kind of, the infographic is kind of cool. I don't really know where the data came from, and I like what I say to be rooted in science. So again, I'm not advocating for this, but just kind of putting it out there, you guys can do with it what you want. But they feel, whoever created this infographic, that we work for 52 minutes and take a 17-minute break. Now, if you're like me, you're like, heck no, I don't have 17 minutes to take a break. I have way more to do than that. But it's not a bad idea. This breaks down, it's teeny tiny, I know, and it breaks down your day. The green are all the times that you're working. And I was actually asking Michael yesterday as we were talking about this, how many hours a day do you think people actually get work done? What do you guys think? 4? Any other thoughts? 6? We all work 8 or 9 hours, right? 1? Nobody's working for 8 hours. What are we doing with the other 4 hours? If we can make a choice to spend those other minutes mindfully, then imagine the impact on the hours we are working. Maybe we increase them. Maybe we're just more efficient or more effective in them. But what are we doing in those minutes? So, just for example, you work for 52 minutes and then you go outside with a coworker for lunch or you exercise for 17 minutes. You work for 52 minutes and then you meditate for 17. You work for 52 minutes and then you do a little mini yoga or desk workout. You work for 52 minutes and then you take a shower. So this is, for example, you figure out how this works into your day. Maybe you work for an hour and a half and you take a 20-minute break. You know, it's up to you, but consider giving yourself permission to take mindful breaks, to increase your productivity, to increase your efficiency, whatever it is that you do, whether you're in healthcare or business or accounting or construction, whatever it is that you do, consider mindfulness. So I talked a little bit about how you do this in your work day. How do we do this in our everyday life? You can do it in everything that you do. You can mindfully walk. Right now, mindfully walking is, how does the floor feel on my feet? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel soft? Where's the pressure on my feet? Like really being present with your walking. I love talking about mindful dishwashing, because dishwashing is like one of the most boring things you can do, but can you remember the last time you washed dishes and what you were thinking? We tend to wash dishes or load the dishwasher and it's like our minds are totally somewhere else. To practice paying attention, you might be thinking like, what the heck, mindful dishwashing. It's an opportunity to practice paying attention. What does the water feel like? Is it sudsy? Is it slippery? Is it dirty? Is it squeaky? What are the sounds? What are the sensations? What am I experiencing in this moment? You're giving your mind an opportunity to practice paying attention. Flexing that muscle. Mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful dishwashing, mindful cooking. A lot of people mindfully cook kind of naturally because that kind of promotes mindful. What does it feel like to cut this? What are the sounds? What are the smells? What are the tastes? There's some examples here, but I think hopefully you're getting the idea if you dig into everything that you're doing and you're mindfully aware that you're drawing your attention to what you're doing in that moment, and that just increases that attentional muscle and your ability to be effective in every moment that you have. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about creativity because it's interesting and it's relevant to everybody, and I think it has a lot to do with the brain. So, creativity is thought to be something that we all possess. It doesn't live in a specific spot in the brain. The brain, and I didn't get too deep into this, but the brain's full of interconnected networks. They go this way and that way, front to back, and everything is connected. So we think of the brain as being isolated. Here's memory, here's language, here's attention. But it's all interconnected. And so this consolidation of information is what allows us to generate new ideas, be creative. What's the definition of creativity? Coming up with something novel and new, innovative. So as we get older, our brain matures. Our brain is fully mature right after adolescence, usually in our early 20s. Primarily our frontal lobes, the front part here, is what matures last. And the frontal lobes are responsible for all of our higher order thinking, planning, organization, problem solving, things like that, which is why adolescents are not very good at those kinds of things, and we get better with those things as we get older. When our frontal lobes get fully developed, they also become our judge and our critic. They are what put the brakes on. They stop us from being impulsive, which can be a good thing. But there's this little paradox where our frontal lobes help us be productive members of society, but they also stop us from doing some of the things that we see maybe in children that are very creative. Children have underdeveloped frontal lobes, so they just imagine and they think without thinking, and that's because their frontal lobes are not reining them in and pulling them back. So as we mature, the brain starts to filter, which is usually a good thing, but sometimes can hold us back from being creative. A lot of people have studied creative people, the prototypical ones, Picasso and Einstein, and done analysis of their work, and they feel that they have these leaky mental filters. Maybe their frontal lobes are a little looser than everybody else's, and these innovations or these ideas kind of get through without the frontal lobes implementing the critic or the judge. And things, when our frontal lobes are trying to implement rule and order and structure, these people allow those things to mingle a little bit more, and that's where the ideas come from. So this is kind of the neural basis of creativity. Knowing this, though, I think is really interesting, because then we can start to say, am I being critical, or am I being judgmental, or is there an opportunity to think in a different way here and be more creative? Creativity is thought to happen in these flashes of insight or aha moments, and some studies have shown that it happens when both hemispheres of the brain are activated, and also when that analytical frontal lobe is turned off, sometimes in sleep. So there's some studies that show that people report having their aha moments when they're sleeping and they wake up and they've had this. And maybe the implication is that it's because the brain is a little shut down. There's a lot of interesting work with creativity and aging, and there are dozens and dozens, hundreds of people in their 8th and 9th decades who come up with their most prolific work. So we get more creative with age, is sort of what the thought is. And there's a couple reasons for that. Sometimes in those later years in life, we just have more time. We're not working. We're not focused on raising children. We have less burdens, so to speak. People are a little less inhibited because of their life circumstance. Hey, I earned this. People start to change the way that they think about life, and it opens up opportunities for creativity. So these are speculations. A lot of people have sort of studied these things in a non-scientific way and come up with these ideas. So a couple of ways that you can be more creative. A lot of times, we're like, okay, I have this problem to solve, boom, 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 okay, I'm good. If you push yourself to the next 10 thoughts or ideas, they tend to, what is shown is that they tend to get more creative if you push past those original thought processes. Unloosen your frontal lobes a little bit. Try not to be so judgmental or critical. So if you make decisions quickly, slow down and explore all the possibilities. If you overthink things, jump to a conclusion every once in a while. If you always pick one way, pick another. So this is exhibiting a little bit more control over your creativity, but challenge yourself to do and think in a different way. We all have lots of brain skills, so if you're a verbal person, try doing something in a visual way. If you're a visual person, try writing it out or being verbal with it. Challenge your brain to try something in a different way. You have the capacity. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So if you just try it a different way, you can do it. And it might generate something new for you. Take a new perspective, explore a new topic, use your imagination, practice paying attention. Some broken record. This is kind of cool, and I've experimented with this lately. I went around and picked out all the green cars. It's like, okay, today I'm going to pay attention to green cars. There's a ton of green cars out there. Who knew? And it became a game, right? There's a green car, and there's a green car, and there's a green car. And I was with someone in a car, and she's like, you keep pointing out green cars? I didn't realize there were so many green cars out there. It's a silly example, but there's so much around us that we're not paying attention to. And that's purposeful, right? We can't take all of this information in. So the brain has to filter it. But if you want to think in a different way, choose something. Pick a red shirt, or a brunette with curly hair, or someone who's smiling, and notice all the people out there who are smiling. We don't consciously take in that information, but if you make a choice to pay attention to something, you're going to see it around you all the time. Encourage curiosity, ask interesting questions, look around, think about the world in novel ways. All right, so to summarize, pay attention on purpose. Be present in every moment as if it is the first and the last moment, because it's true, you're never going to have this moment again. Mindfulness can help you be more efficient in your cognitive abilities. Be a better leader, student, employee, anything that you do, really. Access your creativity, enhance your personal well-being. These are lifestyle practices, and I am both a teacher and a student. I try every day to do these things, and sometimes I do well, and sometimes I forget, don't feel like it. So these are things that you practice and it just becomes part of who you are. And you don't stop doing it. It's sort of a lifestyle. So I'm going to have you do one more breathing exercise with me, just so you can get a sense of what it feels like to just stop for a couple minutes in your day. You guys are already getting in your meditation stance. So go ahead and sit comfortably in your chair. I like to encourage people to uncross their legs. Kind of sit in a dignified way with your back straight. Get stuff off your lap or just make sure it's not going to distract you. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath and let it out. Spend a moment reflecting on the attitudes that form the foundation for mindful practice. Allowing, non-judging, non-striving acceptance. Let go of any agenda about changing yourself. Don't try to make anything happen. Gather and collect your attention in the sensations of your body. Notice your feet on the floor, your back against the chair, your hands resting where they are, your face and head where they are. Allow yourself to feel the heaviness of your body directly. Allow yourself to relax into the support of the chair and the floor beneath you. Let your body ease and settle as much as possible. Bring your attention to your abdomen or your belly. Allow your abdomen to relax and become soft. Gather and collect your awareness on the sensations of your breath as it comes and goes. Concentrate your attention at the place in your own body where you can feel your breath come and go most easily and naturally. For some, this is the abdomen. For others, the chest. For others, the nose or the mouth. Let your attention settle and focus exactly on that place where the breath sensations are easiest for you to feel. If you aren't sure exactly where to focus, the abdomen is a good place to start. Let your attention rest in that particular place now. Allow yourself to feel the sensation of the breath moving in the body just as it is. Allow the breath to come and go without interfering or trying to control it. This practice is about strengthening attention and awareness, not controlling the breath. Keep the focus on just this breath. Let go of any thoughts about how many breaths or the next breath. If it helps you to focus, you could whisper or say quietly in your mind, in on the in breath, out on the out breath. If your attention wanders away from the breath, do not be surprised. Gently notice where it went. Is it on another part of the body? A thought or series of thoughts? A sound? Maybe what you're doing tonight, your schedule for later today? Maybe you're feeling bored, tense, impatient. No matter where your mind wanders, patiently and gently escort your attention back to the place in the body where you are concentrating on your breath sensation. Praise yourself for noticing that your attention has wandered. You have not made a mistake or done anything wrong. This is the habit of every mind. will wander. Recognizing when the mind wanders is a mark of mindfulness. Return your attention to your breathing. Make your best effort to pay attention to the breath sensation with non-judging, allowing awareness. Take one last breath. Acknowledge it and let it go. And open your eyes when you're ready. Maybe take a moment just to think about how you feel right now and how that felt. So hopefully you just got a little sample of how you can spend a few moments in your day. If that's all you do is 3 minutes to stop and breathe and check in. Try it and see how it affects you. Thank you for listening and paying attention. I'm going to post some information from the resources today, which is a lot of information I know, on my website. So I have a little blog on the tab on my website. And you don't, I'm not sure how we're communicating that, but you can go to my website and come up to me and I'll give you that information or my card, and you can see some resources that I talked about today. Thank you very much. And I